well, the first thing I want to tell you is I actually wore this Temple Owls jersey
Ooh, there
for
you go.
you because my dad went to Temple, and in the 80s he turned me on to John Chaney and Mark Macon. I don't know, what year did you go to Temple University?
Like 94 to 98. So
94.
John Chaney was still there.
Oh yeah. Aaron McKee,
sure. Yeah.
Aaron McKee, Eddie Jones.
I have to admit, I'm an art snob. The art F. So I was, but the funny the art F word. I was on the same floor as a lot of the basketball players in my freshman year, which was funny. It was me and Eric Wareheim, my comedy partner. That's how we met. And it was us and a couple other film school guys, and then like the Temple basketball team. And so it's a very strange place to be.
Just two very funny, like artsy fartsy film students, and then like this 6'8" starting center Tony Battie.
Yeah, not a ton of common ground, but
no,
it's okay.
But they were like, man, those two white motherfuckers funny as shit.
Yeah,
we got a game. We got to play UMass. No, I really thought we were going to connect over it. God,
sorry.
It's all good, dude.
I mean, what did I? It's like, how much did I get out of a state school that had a film department? Not a ton, but I did meet my my creative life partner. So,
which is beautiful. And your creative life partner is John Chaney, the coach of the Temple Owls basketball team, best defensive scheme creator in the history of the NCAA. That's the show, everybody.
I also had Bill Cosby speak at my whatever that's called. When you graduate, what's that called? The graduation ceremony. Commencement. Yeah. He spoke, and I think he might have been wearing sweatpants. That was his level of commitment to the event.
So I'm letting everybody know that you got to pull your pants up and make sure you're wearing your comfies. Good for him. I gotta ask this, because we ask all our guests, if Cosby's coming to your town now that he's released, are you going?
I would if I could sneak in, I would roofie his green room. I'd roofie the shit out of his green room and see what happens.
Nice. All right. Let's get to Randall Newman. This is our second record that we've done with Randy Newman on the podcast, and Tim, for me, I always looked at Randy Newman. This is prior to listening to the record that we did before, which was, can you remind me, Adam, what was the record we did before? For some reason I can't pull it up in my head. It's the one with about the Southern stuff.
Good Old Boys.
Good Old Boys. Thank you. Gosh, geez, my brain. So we did Good Old Boys. Incredible record. And also for me, is somebody that literally only knew him from the scores that he did, from I Love LA. I knew he was funny, but truth be told, I didn't take him very seriously as like a solo artist. And now, after digging into him, I just keep feeling like I'm getting more mind-blowing experiences with every record that we've listened to. So whereas mine started maybe a few months ago, tell me about yours. Like, when did you first hear Randy Newman?
I'm in the same boat, I think, but I might start 10 years earlier, because I grew up certainly knowing I Love LA, maybe Short People, but I loved his scores. I mean, I grew up watching The Natural, with Robert Redford, and that movie we had the soundtrack to that. I just thought that was the most exciting piece of music, and I just knew him kind of that way. And I remember, I guess in about 2001 or 2002, I had a friend who was Randy Newman's son. It was kind of like one of the first sort of, quasi or related to a famous person I've ever met. And this guy named John, one of Randy's sons. And I was like, oh man, I'm such a fan of your dad's. And he goes, oh yeah, what's your favorite album? And I was just like,
Wally,
The Natural soundtrack. And I really just didn't know that he had this sort of singer-songwriter 70s back catalog. And so I kind of lodged that in the back of my head. And then a few years later, I just moved to LA, and somebody had recommended this memoir by the guy this guy E from the band Eels. You remember the band Eels?
Oh yeah, I love the Eels.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say I was a huge fan or anything, but I kind of um, read this memoir just because it was recommended. And in that, he talked about his obsession with Randy Newman, specifically Good Old Boys. And when somebody goes deep into that and sort of talks about, this is a record I couldn't stop listening to, and I listened to it for a week nonstop, that makes you like, that made me perk up and like dig in. And it really hit me at the right time in the right way. And so that record's kind of my entry point. And then actually, you know, like Nilsson, I was also a big Harry Nilsson fan, and finding Nilsson Sings Newman, which is another classic album that it was very, very strange because Randy Newman wasn't very well known. He was more known as like in town as a great songwriter or an emerging songwriter, and had put out a couple albums or maybe just one album. And Harry Nilsson was like pretty big, and he decided his next album was going to be just covering all Randy Newman songs, which is really strange, you know, to think about, like making that move as a successful artist.
Yeah.
And so that's like a nice entryway too, because like I think we all can get it out of the way that like Randy Newman's voice, much like Bob Dylan's or other people's voice, sometimes becomes a barrier for entry because it's just too idiosyncratic or too grating or not pleasant to some people. You know, I get that.
Yeah, he's not, he doesn't have a velvet voice like Neil Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not saying that maybe I'm the only person that feels that Neil Diamond has a velvety voice, but Randy has a certain style, and all of his songs just it's almost like his voice is him trying to just like play a joke on everybody, but but then it's like you're like, oh wow, this is incredible songwriting. All right, so continue what you're saying. So you listen to the Harry Nilsson record.
Yeah, that and Good Old Boys, and then I just went down the rabbit hole into this record, 12 songs, Sail Away, and all the rest. I mean, at some point, I don't know how far into like the 70s and 80s I go. I feel like, but I think Bad Love is a great record, which is 99, and he always there's always every few years he comes out with kind of a great song about the times we're living in. Did I lose you?
All right, Josh is having audio issues right now. So
oh, he can't hear you.
He's going to drop off and come back.
Okay.
Just going to let it roll here. Edit it. Let me just mark down the time. It's about 8 minutes. Audio. And you have to go by 12:30, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
No, I mean should provide.
That should be plenty. Yeah.
I mean, we usually go a little over an hour anyway, so that's perfect. So just waiting for him to come back. Do that later. Okay, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear. Do you have me?
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I apologize, Tim.
It happens. No worries.
I know, but
we were in the flow, and
I know, but
I don't know how to get back. I don't know how to get back.
What were you saying? Go back to what you were saying.
Well,
pick it up.
You have it recorded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Think, well, no, I just was kind of going like, he made, I don't think everything he's ever done is, something I'm going to listen to every day. And I do go through like periods where I get really deep into him, and then I need to take a break, and I don't need to hear Randy Newman on the radio necessarily. But I think what opened up in me, what about him that opened up in me, I've always done, music. I've always made music going back to high school and before that, you know, like I think this is true with a lot of comedians. Like a lot of us start wanting to do something creative, wanting to express ourselves in various ways. A lot of times the first thing we do is we get a band together, like, because it's a
Yep.
social activity. And so I was just a huge music guy, and I loved the Beatles and sort of the classic rock scene, and, you know, Dylan, and that was kind of my thing. And then I kind of just drifted, and I also loved comedy, and I drifted towards comedy. And I kind of, the first thing that struck for me was comedy. Like the first thing that gave me an opportunity to be creative professionally was through my partnership with Eric, and making funny stuff. And music just didn't seem viable, and I also just wasn't probably good enough, and I didn't really have anything to say in that space. But I always found ways to use, you know, have music in our work, and write music. And then when I kind of tapped into Randy Newman, I realized you could, you know, because I always just separated music and comedy so much. And I know there's like Weird Al, and there's ways to do both.
Yeah.
But there was something about the way Randy could put himself into a character and be funny, and then like 2 minutes later be really sad, and also 2 minutes later be talking about you know, race or politics or religion, and just be going back and forth in very clever, melodic, sometimes really funky, sometimes really pretty ways, that I realized, like, oh, I could try to write music sort of in that style, where I can either write in character or I could write ironically, but the quality of the music can still be important.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's something, like I said, there's something very, very special about this, because I love how you said the comparison between with comedy and music, because that's 100% true about everybody. I mean, I do this music comedy show called the Goddamn Comedy Jam, where comics do stand up, then they tell a story about a song, and then they sing that song with my band. And it's to see how many comics like want to be rock stars or fall into that so easily, because there is a similarity, definitely, between the performance of comedy and the same feeling you get from being with the band.
Yeah.
So before I go any further on that, I just want to know, like, what did you play in the band?
I mean, I played guitar, and, you know, mostly guitar, just not a great guitar player, but just kind of, I mean, I was more of like a singer and a songwriter. So I would be in various groups, various different incarnations of friends, and you know, some of it is awful, and I mean, all of it's awful if you go back far enough, you know. But there was always comedy. There was always a little bit of humor in it, or trying to be funny. And you know, I think only in the past few years have I, like, as I've put records out every few years, like, have I had the confidence to, like, not only be funny and, like, actually talk about my own experiences a little bit. But I feel like when you're in your 20s, like, what the fuck do you know about anything to sing about? And that hasn't been sung a million times already. So, you know, I just felt like everything, you know, my musical bug could be scratched through, like, or my musical itch could be scratched through, you know, funny parody songs or pastiches of things. But Randy's doing his own thing, which is like a weird layered thing, where I think he's able to, like, sort of disguise himself into these first person narrator characters that he's singing about, but also probably tell you a lot about what he thinks about the world through those, you know. And it's very clever. And there's something very absolutely uniquely American about the kind of music he plays, where it comes from, the lineage and heritage of the Dixieland blues country, you know, base that he works from. That when you tie that with his observations about race and women and men in general, like, it becomes this really, really, really smart, layered, you know, satire, or you know, he just becomes like a great American
Oh yeah.
thinker about the 20th century, you know,
I
in
mean,
his songs.
it's so much deeper than what I think the majority of the public knows about him. It's like when you just take him at the surface of like, okay, it's the soundtrack for Beauty and the Beast, or the soundtrack for this, or the soundtrack for that. You just write him off as like, oh, this is a guy. Just they call him when they have like a Pixar movie, and then
Right.
when you really, I mean, this is just for me. I mean, listening to Good Old Boys, it completely blew me away. Where I was like, God, some of the shit he's saying is so relevant to what's going on in the world today, and then he's saying it in such a funny way that
Right.
you almost don't even realize that he's giving you this look into racism in the South or Jim Crow laws or whatever it is. And with this record, I mean, it's let me see if I can find the bio for this in the background so we can pull that up. So let's just go for a little background on what this record is. This is the second studio release from Randy Newman, came out in April of 1970. And of course, it features only 12 tracks, hence why it's called 12 tracks.
12 songs. Yeah. 12 songs.
That the other person, can you name the other person that's got an album called 12 songs?
No, I can't.
Neil Diamond.
Oh, really? Oh,
Neil,
that's the one he did with Rick Rubin, maybe?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it is Neil at his full Neiliest. I mean, he is, you could feel the rhinestone shirt he's wearing with like the little like cowboy things on it, all acoustic.
Right. My friend Tom Sharpling made this funny joke about that record and Rick Rubin about like, what is it that Rick Rubin does? I think what he does is just sends the band home. That's all he does. Just say like, I don't know, play these songs on your acoustic guitar. Let's try that. You know, it's like, okay, cool, great.
He's
Thanks
like, all right, Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. I've got a great idea. It's just you and the guitar and your songs about war.
Yeah, here's your, you know, and that might be great. But
probably, dude, Rick Rubin's producing it. I'll tell you one thing: it's going to sound full. It's going to sound full. The drums are the drums, which even if he's doing a solo record, there'll still be drums in it for some reason. We'll have a really good snare sound.
Nice room tone.
Nice room tone. Very good. I met him at an Avett Brothers concert, and it's the same situation when I met him that I had when I met Rick Rubin, is that I flipped out and all the people around me had no idea who I was talking to. They thought I was just talking to some, I say Rick Rubin, I meant Rick Ross. Yeah, but I met Rick Ross. My experience meeting Rick Ross, the hip hop star, was the same as meeting Rick Rubin, where like when I met Rick Rubin, the people around me was like, who is this homeless guy that you were so excited to meet? And I was like, oh, that's like one of the greatest producers in the last like 30, 40 years. And when I was at the Irwan meeting Rick Ross, all these white people came up to me. They're like, who is that black guy that you were talking to? And I was like, that's the black Bruce Springsteen. How do you not know that?
Well, since we're on this topic, would you like to hear my meeting Randy Newman story?
My God, yes. I mean, when were you going to bring that out?
I'm waiting for my on ramp.
Give me it. I want all of it. I want all of it, Tim.
Well, yeah, I had like I said, I knew his son, so that's a side thing, but I never used that to meet the guy after I became sort of a apostle of his. But I happened to know the director of Toy Story 3, a guy named Lee Unkrich. And I just knew him through Twitter, and he was a fan, and he was in LA scoring Toy Story 3, and he knew that I loved Randy Newman. He said, do you want to come down to the scoring of the scoring stage where they're basically recording the orchestra for Toy Story 3? And I just, said absolutely. So went down there, and there's the man conducting a 72-piece orchestra in the scoring stage where they did, the Wizard of Oz. Like, this worlds of Hollywood cool shit were just kind of colliding. And
yeah, man.
So I didn't meet him there, but I saw him, and I kind of got to watch him work. But then at the premiere of that movie, which I also went to, I saw him there, and I said, okay, I at least have an entry into saying hello, because I was at the scoring session. And I went over, and he was talking to somebody. I politely said, Mr. Newman, I was at the scoring session for this movie here. And he goes, oh yeah, what did you play? And I was like, oh man, this is already awkward. No, I was, and I had to explain, no, I was just visiting. And you could see him kind of being like, oh, okay. Like he thought I was in the orchestra, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And which I understand. And then so I was like, strike one. And then I just followed that with like, but I just want to tell you, I'm like such a fan of your old records and this, and I don't know why I said old records, but he just gave me this look. He said, you should check out my new ones.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. All right, I get it. And it's that thing, like never meet your idols because it's always uncomfortable for you and them. And also like those guys, I mean, all these guys, they still want to be relevant. They still want to be loved for what they're doing now. They don't, and I feel that way about my own work. Like, I don't care that you like something I did 10 years ago. Have you checked out what I did today? Because that's what I'm actually interested in.
Of course.
That's what I care about. So, then I saw him again because I went to go see him at a festival up in Canada. And I saw him in the airport and I knew just being like, I'll let the man be. I do not need to go and say, like, hey, I saw you at the premiere of Toy Story 3. Oh yeah, what voice did you do? Here we go. Back in the so.
No, you were like, no, I played Piccolo in the orchestra.
Yeah, exactly. I learned. But yeah, that was cool. I'll treasure the moment I got to just speak with him a little bit because I just do think he is like one of the greats, one of the gods of 20th century music.
I gotta ask this.
Music.
No, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you, but I have to ask this just because you mentioned it. Because like, what is the most awkward run-in you've had with a celebrity? Because I know you probably met a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, I've viewed 90%, positive for sure. But I would think the most awkward recent one was I had this amazing opportunity to work on a sort of a creative pitch with David Byrne. And Talking Heads way up there for me, way up there.
We had Jerry Harrison on the podcast.
Cool.
And it was great because it was right around the time we were doing Modern Lovers. So we could have him talk about Modern Lovers and we had him talk about Talking Heads.
Well, I'm sure he's had some awkward experiences with David Byrne too.
Oh yeah.
But, so mine was, I had this wonderful couple of days kind of just like talking to him about this idea and really kind of, I don't know, we just had some nice hangs and I felt like comfortable with him a little bit, which is very strange because of what an icon he is and what he meant to me.
Yeah.
And then like a year later, he played in LA at I don't know where, one of these places. And we were invited by his manager and went to sort of after show, like party on the side there, as which are never a great place to like hang, I think, generally, because it's like a wedding reception or something like. And he was kind of doing that wedding reception thing where he's kind of going down the line of people saying hi, and he got to me and just nothing clicked. There was no memory of meeting me ever, and it quickly went from like that to like the next guy, and I was like,
oh man,
really hurt. And I was so mad because I didn't want to do it. I wanted to stay out of that line, but I was with a friend who's like, come on, let's get a picture with David Byrne, come on, he knows you'd had a good. And I was like, I don't want to put that on him,
Yeah,
but I know he's got like, who knows, maybe it was just, I've been in that situation too where you just blank on somebody, but whatever.
But on the
he looked
inside...
at me like, what are you, like, it was more of like, it was kind of a, what are you doing here? But also kind of like, I'm gonna play this off like I just now I have to go over here, like
and on the inside the whole time you're like, me.
Yeah, but we talked about life and you told me stories about meeting Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. Yeah. So
what's funny is, so the last time we did Good Old Boys, we had I don't know, do you know there's a comedian and writer, he works on Marvelous Miss Maisel, his name is Jordan Temple, brilliant comic, and he has a very, very similar story about meeting Randy, but it's what's so great, it's just that sometimes meeting that celebrity that you love, it can, like you said, it could be this short, sweet thing, which you're just like, I met Tom York we both did Outside Lands, and it was so quick, but it was like just perfect. And then, and sometimes we feel like we're annoying him, sometimes we don't, but either way, it's like with Jordan, it's the same thing that kind of applies to this situation, which is like that Randy Newman's music works on so many different people, because Jordan is, I think a little bit younger than me, maybe like 32, 33 years old, black dude. And it's like he identifies with Randy's music more than any other artist, which is just so interesting. And I think it is because of the kind of music that Randy is kind of providing, which is this, these takes on society and with a little bit of humor intact. So of course Randy's going to make that joke with you, which is like, well, you got to hear my new stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not vindictive or mean spirited. It's just, and that's the mode of communication that guys like that, operate with. And I do too. And sometimes you don't think about the receiving end of that all the time.
No, completely.
Yeah. And also he's like a 78-year-old man or whatever it is. And I'm, it's like, he's an older guy that's like, probably, I don't know why I should connect with him. Like, I don't know. It feels like we're from very different backgrounds, generations. Like there's no expectation that I should suddenly become pals with him.
Yeah, but we always hope. We always just have that nestle of like, hey, this is it. I'm gonna meet Beck, and Beck is gonna just think I'm the man. Right. And instead I scared the shit out of him and his children.
Right.
That was my run-in with Beck. It was not good. So let's talk about this record in particular. Yeah. What do you connect with on this record, and like, how does it make you feel from listening to it, especially now as compared to when you first heard it?
I think listening back to it, I hadn't listened to it for a little while, so I've been listening to it. It's a really funky, fun record in a lot of places. Like it grooves and it's got like a cooking quality to it, like
yes.
Have You Seen My Baby? And I just blanked on not, oh, come on, Apple Music. You just
pull it up. Come on, Apple.
Come
on, Tim Cook.
You can cut this stumbling out, but Mama Told Me Not to Come, which like is so funny that it was like a Three Dog Night hit, right?
Yep.
And it's not funny when Three Dog Night does it at all. It's like you don't think about it as a funny song, but this is really funny. I think it's really funny. This like, it kind of reminds me. There's this in the movie, the Christopher Guest movie about the folk songs.
A Mighty Wind.
Yeah, Mighty Wind. They had a song that the three of those guys had in the movie, which was Never Did No Wandering. And it was this like song about singing about how you never really went anywhere. And this feels like a similar joke to me, that like there's nothing cool at all about the sentiment of that song. Like it's not a fun character to put yourself in. He's kind of a whiny loser.
Yeah.
Who's like complaining about this party.
Yes.
So, but yet it has this groove to it. Song Rosemary too is like funky and just like really a great. The band on this record is fantastic. I don't like the songs that kind of confound me because I feel like maybe he's just hasn't dialed it in yet, is the racial stuff where it's like, don't exactly know what your point of view is on like Yellow Man and Underneath the Harlem Moon, where it's sort of like, I think it's coming from a good intention of recalling a early 20th century simplistic. I'm curious if there's more out there about that. I feel like on the next record, this is sort of like a proto political commentary style record from him. It's not really all there yet. He's like dancing around it a little bit. Then he comes in with, well, I think his next record is Sail Away, and the first track on that, Sail Away, it's like that hits hard about race. That song is basically from the perspective of a slave trader, and the one-way message he's sending to Africans that are about to get on the slave ship to come over to America, with the message of almost like a cruise ship saying like how great things are going to be when you get to America.
Yeah.
And that's so dark and so simple that you know, you'd have to be very dim to not understand what he's saying with that song by not saying, you know. But, you know, when I listen back to this record, I don't know if it's all there on something like Yellow Man or Underneath the Harlem Moon. I don't really know what he's doing there. And maybe he's spoken about it or there's writing about it. But
Adam, let me ask you a question. Not to cut you off. Adam, can you find out how far after this record came out, Good Old Boys came out?
Sure.
I think I'll tell you, I think it's like 3 or 4 years, because it's this record, then right away is Sail Away, and then 2 years later is Good Old Boys. So
okay, so and whereas Good Old Boys is like a very focused album where
it's like a concept album, really.
Yes,
yeah,
very, very, definitely. This is like that's like his dark side, if you want to put it as that. But this one, I mean, I'm looking at some of the topics that he talks about. He's talking about love, he's talking about sex, he is talking about racial prejudice, and he's still once again, like he did in Good Old Boys, he's starting to talk about life in the South.
Yeah, old Kentucky home.
Yeah, but in this, figure this out. I don't know what's going on. I mean, you know, I was born in 1979, but like, you know, 1970 was when this comes out. I mean, how many artists do you think are actually tackling a lot of those subjects? Yes, love, yes, sex, but I mean, racial prejudice and life in the South, especially a white guy doing that.
You know, it's funny to think about that. This is the same year that the band came out. Their second album, and I hear a lot of similarities actually between this record and that record, and just sort of the general like Basement Tapes, this period, this Bob Dylan, the band dipping into that old weird America storytelling and folk songs, and how race has really been, you know, the central story in American history since the beginning. And it's not something that just came around with Martin Luther King. It's been throughout. And it's, you know, and when Randy Newman kind of dips back into this kind of turn of the century sound, he's not doing it with nostalgic intentions necessarily. He's like recalling a period where it was probably even worse. You know, it was definitely even worse than it is in 1970. Whereas like the band is doing it too in a way with, like, you know, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. That's you know, a song from the Southern perspective about you know, losing the Civil War, which is like a dangerous territory, you know, like to sing about. And I think their intentions are right, that it's sort of like the perspective of Virgil Caine in The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down is sort of a guy trapped in the middle. He's just a poor, you know, dirt farmer, a white guy who gets drafted basically, and is seeing his surroundings destroyed by the North, and he probably doesn't have an opinion on race, you know. So I don't know. I'm maybe drawing outside the line a little bit.
No. I think it's apt. I think what you're saying is 100% apt. I think like it's you know, especially right now with everything that's kind of going on in the world, where they're, you know, we're not trying to like hide the past and be like, well, we don't want to honor it, of course. And I get the whole not honoring it, but this is all stuff that happened in our American culture. And now there's this war between people that are saying like, no, we want to teach everybody about what happened so we can learn from it and be progressive. When then there's another side that's like, well, let's just not talk about it anymore, which is insane.
Or just talk about just like stick to this very sanitized sort of children's book version of American history that's not very accurate.
Yeah, it's like there was slavery, then Abraham Lincoln said no more slaves, and then it was a peaceful existence until George Floyd. Yeah. But that's why I think something like this, and even the band's The Night They Drove Dixie Down, is so important, because you can't hide what has happened and in our society. And so to have an artist, and this is what's so fucking funny, is like, if I wish the world would just be like, listen, stop thinking he's only these movie soundtracks. Like this dude, it's like I want to scream it from the mountaintops. Like, dude, you have a sociologist that is funny, that is telling you about how fucked up shit was. And oh man, it's like I want to get Randy Newman's A God t-shirts. I think we should make those, Tim. I think we should do that. We should tell everybody.
I have the Little Criminals poster up in my office down here. I don't know if you can see that. It's him on the freeway. But yeah, I'm just actually looking at like the lyrics of Yellow Man, because that one does really, because I feel like there's some songs where he leaves it out of the like the overt, like it's in between the lines, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that one, is it even in between the lines, or is he just like, you know, I don't know where it is. It's like, because it has that Oriental style music, like the piano kind of, you know, those, whatever they're called, the fifths, that sort of, you know, kung fu fighting style.
Oh yeah.
Tone. And it's sort of just like, I don't know. How did people process that? How did critics who were probably like, you know, progressive minded for 1970 or whatever, like, what was the reaction to that? I mean, does anyone know?
I've got it all. I've got the critical reception pulled up right now. So the album received positive reviews from contemporary critics. Okay, so Keith Phillips from the AV Club, which the AV Club back in 1970.
No,
good for the Huffington Post.
A reissue or something.
They were really small back then, but it took off only 10 years ago, but they've been reviewing ever since. So this guy says, began to gather a following beyond critics and fellow songwriters for the album. That doesn't really explain anything. Let's see what Rolling Stone magazine said. They gave it a rave review when it was released, hailing the album as the full emergence of a leading innovator in rock and roll. And then the Village Voice called it the best record of 1970, finding the songwriting, production, and performances superior and, quote unquote, more accessible than the great but weird album that preceded it. So I'm looking at the reviews. I mean, nobody's saying, let me see if I can find anything about the racial stuff. Nobody's really mentioning that, besides saying that it's like, you know, that it's the easy swinging satire of America. That's what we get from a Rolling Stone album guide.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just like attribute it to like in the context of the album, he's like creating you know, imagery of another time a lot of the times, and this sort of simplistic, you know, I can picture like the Chinese American in the turn of the century San Francisco, you know, as they're really considered like literally like an alien from another country coming to America, you know, and so that's like a part of American identity is our weird relationship with newcomers from that don't look like us. So, you know, I just think like on this record, he's like, feels to me like he's like dabbling in something that that later goes on to kind of like become part of his like core identity as a songwriter. So I just don't know if it's all there yet on this record, but it cooks and it grooves, and it's like
it cooks.
There's just
grooves.
Straight up great songs, you know, great. Like,
there's not a bad song.
R&B songs.
I don't, you know, I always say this about, there's only a few artists that I believe this. It's like so far in my life, in my experience with Randall Newman, I don't even know if it's Randall Newman, but I want to call him that. I don't think he's written a bad song. I don't think anything I've heard by him so far. I'm like, there's no skippers.
I have a bad song.
Which one
I'll
is
tell
it?
you. Well, it's on his 86 album, Land of Dreams or something like that. It's not River of Dreams. It's
in the middle of the night.
Walking.
That's Billy Joel one. I know it's not the same one, but
it's called Land of Dreams. Did I say that? Land of Dreams?
In the Land of Dreams.
Well, there is a very unfortunate attempt at rap, and it's called Master Man and Baby J. And it's 1988, and it sounds like, you know, like CNC Music Factory.
Oh God, Adam, pull it up. Adam,
it's fucked.
Adam, are you pulling this up? Because I have to hear Randy Newman. Go listen, everybody. I'm here to say.
It is exactly what you just did.
Oh, please get it. It's gone. Wait, where did it go? Get it back, Adam. You just had it.
I have to wait for the ad to finish. That's why.
Fuck. Oh, dude, we got to pay for YouTube without commercials. We got that kind of money. Here you go. Oh.
Yeah. You can't This can't.
People tell me that I brag a lot, cause I call myself the master man. Always talking about how I got dynamite in every hand. Hit it.
Yeah.
Me and my brother, we live
I mean,
Kill it. That's
yeah,
enough. We don't need any more.
I don't want to. I assume there's a little bit of irony there and a little bit of having fun with the medium. I just don't want to listen to it. Like I don't.
No,
want
God,
that.
no.
I don't want
You
that,
know-
Randy. And maybe he was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I got a hit with I Love LA. Maybe I'll get a hit out of it. Like I do think there's like a craftsman quality to him. There's like a workman. Like I'm a songwriter. I'm a pop songwriter. I can make hits. So let's keep. And I think he's probably always trying to do that too. And that's probably a battle within him of like doing shit that's going to get him in trouble or is going to turn people off. And then his desire to have like another short people that, is unfortunate because it like defines him as a novelty act in some ways for people, like right away.
Yeah.
And then but it's probably made his life a lot easier in other ways,
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like, you battle this, like, no, take me seriously. But also, this is a silly, Short People is a silly song.
Very silly.
And I guess it's about, it's a placeholder for race or otherness, but it's supposed to be funny. I think he would say, like, the intention of this is to be funny.
Yeah.
So it's a funny song. Anyways.
Well, here's, what it sounded like? I don't know. I used to DJ a lot of like company parties, and they would always be after dinner, they do speeches, and then always like somebody in HR or one of the employees would be like, all right, well, we prepared a song, a little rap song, and then they would do that. It would be like, well, Tina in HR gets the paperwork done. We're here to have fun. And it's just, and I actually just made it even better. Like and it's, listen, is it a bad song? Yes. Is it the worst song? Well, let me rephrase that. Is it better than most people's other songs? Kind of. So it's still not bad. And also we got a good laugh out of it. So if Randy knew that.
I bet if we brought it up with him, he would be like, oh my God, don't even remind me how stupid, or like, he would have a sense of humor about it. And he wouldn't be like, no, I became a serious rap artist there for a minute. But
he's like,
I would assume that.
He's like, I was going to be working with Tupac Shakur, and then it just went a different direction. So I went with KRS-One. It's like, wow, Randy, you're the man.
And that's funny. You do his voice, which is it's not far off. Like he has a kind of voice that, he's kind of talks like this. And the thing is, like, he does talk that way. Like that's how he talks, and that's how he sings. So it's not like he's not putting on an affectation to that outrageous. Like that's kind of, it's him. Like, so you're getting, it's like, I'm always drawn to, like, if I'm going to listen to music, most of the time I want it to be like a very active, like present. I'm listening to somebody tell me something, I can enjoy the music, but I want to hear, like, from this person's point of view. If it's Joni Mitchell or Randy Newman, like, this is like a unique opportunity to kind of sit in the room virtually with somebody as they kind of share with you who they are, what they think about things. So I love that he has that character to his voice and that he's able to use it, a lot of times for humor's sake, to be funny and to be conversational in the song and have a character that doesn't sound like anybody else.
I want to go with what you're saying. I think if he doesn't sound the way that he sounds, I don't think he even has a career trying to sing the satire that he's singing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he had a really strong, like, yellow man, it's just that wouldn't work at all. It's like he is almost a perfect, if you had to say who could write a song and sing a song about the Southern racism that happened and Jim Crow and this, that, and the other thing, it's like, well, if it's too perfect, it's almost it takes away from what actually he's saying. So in a sense, he's doing exactly the style that he should be doing with the voice that he has, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in that period, well, I was just going to add one thing. I mean, maybe this is the direction you're going, but it's like in that little pocket of 70 to 74, I think those three records we're talking about, or the 12 songs, Sail Away, and Good Old Boys. Him and his producer, Larry Waronker, I think it's Waronker, Larry Waronker. I never know how to pronounce it, but they
I thought it
put
was
together.
Waronker.
We're all Wanamakers, the old
Lenny Warananana.
but they put together just like an incredible studio band. Like the band on these records is half the fun for me. They're so good. It's so appropriate for the kind of music he's playing. You know, Ry Cooder's in there. I think Jim Gordon you got some people.
So slide guitar is Ry Cooder. Great name, by the way. Ry Cooder. That is a perfect rock and roll name. He
is Ry Cooder. There's no question about it.
I wish my name was Ry Cooder. All right, then you have the Byrds' Clarence White on guitar, the drumming of fellow Byrds member Gene Parsons, and also drumming by Jim Gordon of Derek and the Dominoes. I mean, those are legends.
Yeah. He continued to work with guys like that. Just super tasty, you know, soulful guys that were also, and the sound of the records are just so clean and warm, and you know, it's exactly the kind of music I like to listen to from a musical place.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: Has this record or has Randy Newman influenced anything that you've done in your career, or even maybe like your writing process with Eric?
It kind of is a separate thing that it really has influenced the music I make, but it has not really influenced. I think the comedy, I don't know if it's influenced it directly, but I think his general attitude and the general, you know, I'm going to do what I do and you can take it or leave it is such a good ethos. And I don't think there's ever been as even though I said earlier, I think he does try to be successful. I don't think he's intentionally trying to, you know, kneecap himself, but I think there's like the intention of being successful, but also like, I'm going to do my weird shit and you're either into it or you're not. And I can't control that. Therefore I don't really care.
Yes.
I think like his energy there, and, you know, he seems generally like kind of a humble guy and kind of a decent person. And so I think he's just like a good person to look up to as an artist, you know. He's had like he's a guy that's had like a long career, and that's cool too. I think, you know, rock and roll is not doesn't last
a long man's
long.
game.
But there are people that have been able to do it and gracefully age into it in a way that's like it's appropriate for him to still be singing these songs as an 80-year-old man, whereas you might be a little less, you know, forgiving of like Gene Simmons doing it. You know, not a fan of him, but that's probably an extreme example, but it's a little silly when Gene Simmons, I don't think Gene Simmons is 80, but he's going to be 80.
He's going to be
probably.
And he's still going to be doing a song called Love Gun.
Yeah, exactly.
80-year-old man, like, my dick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
well, it's
basically
just
all their
I
music.
guess it's just a state of mind, but yeah, I don't know. There's lots of like things to look at Randy and you know, become inspired by and try to live your life that way.
Yeah.
As an artist.
So let me ask you this then: if there's a song on this record that you feel, I don't know, is closest to your own work, which one would it be?
I mean, this record, there's other records that have the song that I think A Wedding in Cherokee County is about as close to like the comedy I want to make as possible, which is on Good Old Boys. On this record, you know, I just like the grooves of you know, Mama Told Me Not to Come, but also like, I mean, I'll say like Let's Burn Down the Cornfield is also dark and funny in its own way and creepy. You know, there's like a creepiness to some of his stuff that I think exists in a lot of the stuff I do in comedy, that there's like an uncomfortable creepiness to it all and a darkness to it that I relate to.
So do you and Eric, when you guys are writing, which like the show's brilliant. I have to give a shout out to my buddy Matt Beinfest, because I know he's listening to this. He was the one that turned me on to you and Eric. I can't tell you how many nights I've been high as balls, enjoying your comedy, the movies. It's great. But like, what is in a sense, because you know because your comedy is in a sense kind of absurd, but that's what makes it so great. Like, how do you guys, you know, where do you get from sitting down to your buddy to being like, to getting, you know, what's on, you know, great job.
Yeah. Well, there's various routes to that, but I mean, all of it's fairly boring, except that you know, like the to talk about it. I mean, I think the truth is, it's like, what makes me laugh, what makes him laugh, what makes us laugh together, and then surprising ourselves and surprising what we imagine whoever's watching it, and not repeating ourselves, and also having kind of like a loose rule book or guide that, like, these are sort of things that we think are funny, these are sort of things we don't think are funny, and you know, but, and also, like, I don't know, we never overthink it, never analyze it too much before doing it. It's always sort of like, we don't have, I always joke that there's not like reams and reams and notebooks filled with unproduced things. It's always like, when you have something, go with it and try to make the best you got, you know, the best it can be, and not overthink it. And hopefully the totality of the work defines it. And, you know, working with other, like, it's such a collaborative, it's not stand up, it's like a collaborative process of working with other actors and costume people and set designers and editors and animators. And like, it's a collective enterprise that we're kind of, you know, the captains of, but ultimately it's a lot of people's creativity and input.
Was there a sketch
which is a really, really fun answer, isn't it? See what I mean?
No, but it makes sense. And the question was,
you know?
But I get it. But also the question was like, it could have gone in any way. And it was just a basic question, but really I ultimately got to what I wanted to get to was this question. Was there ever an idea that you and Eric like fought over that either didn't get made or got made? What was the biggest sketch idea that you guys had a disagreement on?
I wish I mean, I don't want to be evasive. I don't think there was anything that we learned really early on, that there's nothing to be gained by winning an argument over something as superfluous as a comedy sketch.
Yeah.
You know, and that we learned that if somebody felt passionate enough to really want something, unless it was crossing some kind of line that didn't feel right for whatever sort of ethical reason or something, and I don't even think that happened, but there really wasn't an excuse to say like, I forbid this from going forward, because you got to have like a give and take. So, but it almost never happened. And there'd be points I'd be like, I don't want to fight for saying something that you think is funny isn't funny.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I? You know, I'm just a guy with my own sense of humor, and it's not always the same, you know, and you get pretty, you know, you learn quickly, like, well, it's not just me that doesn't think it's funny. It's like everybody else in the room. And then you got to check in with your pride and your ego if you're going to really keep fighting for something or argue for something. But, you know, in general, both of us have had our days when we're in bad moods and, you know, become difficult to be around, I'm sure. But in general, there was never like, nothing ever didn't happen. I mean, things don't happen because both of us aren't on the same page, you know? You know, you just get to that point on an idea where it doesn't go very far because it goes, I don't know, I can't figure this out, let's move on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I can't give you like a clickbait headline about the one sketch.
No, I get it. All right, we're done here.
Yeah. What a waste.
All right, let's do some facts and let's get you out of here because I know you're on a time crunch. All right. Here's some Randall Newman facts. Also, Adam, check to make sure that its name's Randall Newman, because I just feel like there's somebody out there right now listening.
I kind of think it's Randy, but I could be wrong.
Let's find out.
My guess is official name is Randy.
Randall.
It is Randall. It is Randall Stewart Newman. Oh, wow. Man, he looks like my science teacher. He literally.
Well, that's the other great love. The thing I love about him is, like, aside from the music not being rock and roll at all, the way that he decided, like, this is who I am. I'm not going to put on, I'm not going to put on a leather jacket or dress like, a rock and roller. I'm just going to be a guy who wears normal clothes and wears glasses and isn't worried about how I look. That is so cool to me, to be like, who else is doing that? Like, everybody else, even in his peer group, is somehow affecting them to a fashion that feels, on the fringe, or, I don't know, if you're Bob Dylan's still kind of dressing a little like a rock star.
Oh yeah,
in the early
dude.
70s,
He dresses like a sheriff
yeah,
from like
yeah.
1870, dude.
Well, now he does, but yeah, like even back in the 70s, there was a consideration about, like, I'm going to be kind of on a little bit of a weirdo here. There's a funny picture the other day someone posted of the Rolling Stones now, and it was like the four of them, which really should be five, because they've had the goddamn bass player of the Rolling Stones in that band for longer than anybody else that's been in the band.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he's just not in any of the pictures. Okay, what does that say about them? But there's the four of them, and the Charlie Watts. There's four of them are all wearing like silk shirts, the custom made scarves and all this stuff. And then Charlie Watts is there looking like he works at like T. Rowe Price or something. He's got like a sweater with the zipper down and pants. Yeah, there it is. That's the shot. And it's like, I love it. There's just one guy in the band that just dresses like a normal man. He's like, I don't.
T. Rowe Price, dude.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Look at
So that's what another reason to love Randy is that he's like, it is what it is. He is who he is, and he's gonna put on he's just gonna dress. He's gonna put on
he's put on a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah,
he's gonna put on a Hawaiian shirt, or he's gonna put on a flannel shirt with a what do you call it? A sport coat that's
he just he's got sensible shoes on.
Yeah, he's got slacks on. He's got slacks on.
He's got chinos. Adam, pull up the Google images of Randy Newman, and I bet you every outfit that he's wearing, he could wear at like a business, outing where they're like, here we go, pull them up. I want all of them. Look at that. Look at that. Every shirt. I mean, he is ready for a country club. Why is he next to Chance the Rapper?
Yeah.
Except
the glasses, and I always wonder about his because he's got this big curly fro, but then as an older man, do you lose your fro? Does it naturally straighten out when you get it short? I guess he's not doing a perm.
Eugene Levy. Look at Eugene Levy. Eugene Levy had that thick, like curly Q hair. And now he has the straightest. I mean, he's got relaxer in it. I'm not saying Randy Newman's putting relaxer in his hair. Adam, find out if Randy Newman what his hair treatment is, because that would be quite interesting to end the podcast on what shampoo and conditioner Randy Newman.
Because he looks pretty good
for some reason. He does look good. I'm a huge dude. Listen, that's the thing that I'm worried about as I get older, because I still dress like I'm in Mumford and Sons, and so I'm so worried that I'm gonna be that like 70-year-old guy still wearing boots and rock and roll jeans, and it's, I don't know. I still use words that I used in the 90s. I still say, that's bomb.
There's a way to gracefully do that, I think, where you're not embarrassing yourself out in public, but you also are wearing something that feels comfortable for you. And I think a few years ago I just started wearing black t-shirts, and I found like a black t-shirt that I like, and I know it's just like, that's just what I'm going to do, like, unless I'm going to a wedding or something, or
then you wear a white t-shirt.
Then I wear a white t-shirt.
I mean, I gotta ask, who's your t-shirt company? Who's the t-shirt company that you're buying from?
Nothing too exciting. It's Calvin Klein.
Okay, all right.
But they just fit. They're just I've tried a bunch, and they're the ones that fit right for my lumpy body. They're the ones that like present the most forgiving shape of my torso.
Calvin Klein's solid t-shirt, bro. All right, let's do some facts. All right. Since the 80s, Newman has worked mostly as a movie composer. His movie scores include Ragtime, Awakenings, Love Awakenings. I'm going to watch that now, just seeing The Natural, as you mentioned, Meet the Parents, and Seabiscuit. He has also scored several Disney Pixar movies, like we've talked about: Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., Cars. I mean, he is the man. Yeah. All right. He's also won 2 Academy Awards. I think
That's
for
the big one.
I think Toy Story
acting.
is for dude. It's him, Daniel Day-Lewis,
Pacino, yeah.
Meryl Streep. So I want to ask you this on the flip side of winning 2 awards. I want to go the opposite. What's the worst review you've ever gotten?
Oh God, so many. I've gotten so many bad reviews. I mean, the worst review. We made a movie. Eric and I made our only movie called Tim and Eric's $1 Billion Movie, and
It's great.
it's a silly, disgusting, oftentimes lowbrow comedy. And I have my issues with it, but Roger Ebert really hated it, and it was one of the last reviews he wrote before dying.
God.
And he really it felt like in the review he gave up on life in the review, like he gave up on his vocation, and it was really annoying because he was there's fake names in it, like their characters have names and some of them are funny and whatever, but he was giving us suggestions on what the name should have been, as pulling names out of a Marx Brothers movie, and just missed it entirely, and was just offended by it and upset with it. And I was really hurt because I kind of liked him at the time for this period. I kind of liked his writing. And then my dad was like, who the fuck gives a shit what he thinks? Oh my God, that loser that was on TV with his thumb all the time. Who cares? And I was like, okay, you're right. And then I saw Adam McKay, who was a producer on the movie, and he was like, dude, that review from Roger Ebert was hilarious. Great work. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's another side to this.
It's almost like a rite of passage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is to get that review. I mean, dude, you got reviewed by Roger Ebert. I mean, him and Gene Siskel had their own show on fucking television. Speaking of which,
I just don't I just don't like bad news, and that's ultimately it's kind of bad news at first, and then you can see it. But you'd be lying if you said that bad reviews are good for you, because they're just they just kind of hurt you personally, and they fuck up your movie or they fuck up your record, because perception is 90% of how people receive things. Oh, I heard that was good from this fucking asshole who writes a column that is a total loser, I just saw this quote from Martin Short as he was talking about the movie Clifford. They did this whole oral history of the movie Clifford, and he at the end he was like, sometimes I do talk show appearances, and I'll look on YouTube and read the comments under there, and if I see one that's I've never liked him, or he's always been annoying to me, or Martin Short's just not funny to me. His reaction is I just imagine what it would be like to have dinner with that person and how boring it would be. What a boring person that person must be. And that and I love that. I was like, oh yeah, these people, I don't have anything to do with these people.
I mean, how fun would that be to go out to dinner with a movie critic, and they're like, the pasta was bland and undercooked, and this was that, but the dessert was thrilling. It's all right, dude, just come on, give us a break. All right. What else we got? This is an interesting one. He was hired to write the score for the Harrison Ford movie Air Force One, but his music wasn't patriotic enough.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Get off my plane. Get off my plane.
Right.
I wrote the song.
He can do that. He can do that kind of Aaron Copland, Stephen Foster sort of Americana, the music that they'd be playing at Disneyland kind of sound. But I guess there's always a sadness in there too that maybe you don't want anything to do with in those kind of movies.
Yeah, I don't know if that one would have, no pun intended, would have flown. I think that I love the Disney stuff makes perfect sense, especially as a third act for him. Going from songwriting to then, like I said, we've talked about this satirist, musical genius, I'll say it. And then now to making these beautiful songs that children enjoy, that are special and about friendship and about love. And it's the perfect, I don't think that Harrison Ford movie, wouldn't have,
no, but it's beneath him.
It is beneath him, but it's a great movie. Gary Oldman, everybody.
you know, The Natural is a great example of his genius, where the movie kind of plays into what he's so good at, the Americana, the beauty of it, but also the melancholy of it, and the story of The Natural about this, you know, older baseball player who's not perfect, is very flawed, and has like, it's a great American story. It's not just Toby Keith or what that fucker who sings and proud to be an American.
Oh, Bruce Greenwood.
Yeah, like fuck him. There's nothing interesting or clever about that. That's just basic. That's like a dullard's vision of America, you know? And
Yeah.
you got to have the good with the bad. You got to like be able to have some sadness and regret with sort of the beauty of it all.
I gotta say this because Adam just pulled it up. It's Lee Greenwood.
Greenwood. I knew
Bruce,
that. Bruce.
I think Bruce Greenwood
Bruce Dern or something.
is no, he's like an actor. I think who's Bruce.
yeah.
Look up Adam. Look up Bruce Greenwood while I do the next one.
He's a Canadian actor and producer.
Oh, what's he been
better
in?
not get on his bad side.
JFK and 13.
Yes. I knew that was him. We pull a picture of him because once you see this guy, Tim, you're gonna be like, I've seen him.
He's got gray hair. He would play like a congressman or something, maybe.
Yep. He is Congress to the max. Pull it up, Adam. What you got? Come on, baby. Hit us with Bruce Greenfield.
Bruce Greenwood, right?
Bruce Green. There he is.
Got him.
Good old. God, he was gorgeous. Look at him.
You can picture him at like a Senate committee hearing, like asking somebody a question. For sure.
But look, he was dreamy. All right, get this off my screen. I don't want to look at this dude anymore. All right. Here's a good one. His songs aren't typically personal, which helps make him an effective writer for others. This is largely because of his lifestyle, which isn't very rock and roll, as we've discussed. He's quoted saying, "What am I going to write about? Sitting at home and reading and playing with the kids?" He once asked. Wait,
that's really funny because I think that for the most part is true, but there's a line from him, and I'm just going to look it up, that kills me every time, and I think it is about him, and I think it's the way he probably sees, and it's called My Country. It's on the record Bad Love. But now your children are your children, even when they're grown. When they speak to you, you've got to listen to what they have to say. But they all live alone now. They all have TVs of their own, but they keep on coming over anyway. And as much as I love them, I'm always kind of glad when they go away. And that's fucking genius. And what it is like, I like to watch TV alone. And I like it when they come over, but when they leave, and first of all, I don't know why they're coming over because they got their own TVs.
Yeah.
But they can watch TV alone. And great to see you, but boy, isn't it nice when they leave.
Oh my God.
It's so heartbreaking, you know.
It's so true. It's just, that's all we
true.
want.
It's a fundamental truth that like we try to love, we try to be kind, and there's always something that's fighting against that within us. So it's like trying to keep those two things at an equal balance, or be honest with it. But
there has to be that mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always some, there's some truth in your art, there's some truth in mine. And then at the same time, it's like, we see stuff and we're like, let me write about this topic. And
and that's the thing is, that's the way Randy Newman might have been feeling that moment. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's how he always thinks or always feels. And I find that there's in a lot of the songs I write, there's some dark stuff. I put out a record called Fear of Death last year, and it's all about death. And one of the lines is like, fear of death is keeping me alive. That's what I'm really just scared to die. Like, I don't really care about being alive. I just don't want to die.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I don't think about that. I'm not obsessed with that idea. I don't think about that all the time. But when I'm sitting around with my guitar and that line comes out, I'm like, cool. That's cool. That's a cool thought that I just really had. And it's cathartic. You get it out and get it out in the world, and somebody goes, "Oh yeah, I felt that way."
Yeah. No,
so
completely.
I think that happens with Randy all the time. I think he's sometimes a character, he's sometimes hiding behind things, but I think it is a good way to get to know the way the guy really feels.
Totally. This is a fact that I'm still mind blown. Adam, I want you to fact check this just as I say it, but after Steve Martin came up with the idea for Three Amigos, he asked Lorne Michaels and Randy Newman to help him write the script about three silent film stars pretending to be actual heroes. So check the IMDb. I want to verify this because I didn't. I just pulled this one up quickly. Did he write Three Amigos? Adam, what do you got?
Looking it up now.
My guess is he probably like sat around with those guys for a week or something, and threw a bunch of ideas out into the world, and somebody typed them up, or like, it'd be cool if they ran into some Mexican bandito and they shot him up, like threw ideas into the pot, and then gets like a nice co-writing credit.
Did he get it?
He does have writing credit on that. Yeah.
Yeah. He gets an $8 check every 6 months.
Yeah.
Good for him, dude. Good for him. That movie made no money. Great movie, though. Great movie. Watch Three Amigos. All right, rapid fire questions, and then you're out of here, Tim. Favorite song on the record?
Mama Told Me Not to Come.
Okay. Really?
It's out of this record. That's the one that I would pull from. Yeah. Or Rosemary. I'll say Rosemary just to be cooler. Rosemary.
Okay. Rosemary's cool, but I got to ask you this as a follow-up. This wasn't one of the rapid fire questions. Which version is better, Randy Newman's or Three Dog Nights?
Randy's. Fuck Three Dog Nights version. Fuck it.
All right. Least favorite song on this album?
I think just because of the confusion about it, Yellow Man. I don't need to hear him. I just don't like it. I don't think I need that.
What song on this record would you fuck to?
Burn Down the Cornfield. There's something simmery about that. There's something sultry on that record.
Yeah. Which one did I pick? Let me just verify. Yeah, this Cornfield. I'd even do Underneath the Harlem Moon because it's kind of sweet.
That would be a good one. For sure.
All right. And then last one, does this deserve to be on the 500 greatest albums list? And there's a follow-up I'm going to start adding now, which is, why is this album important for the younger generation to hear?
I'm not an authority on the 500 list. I assume it's vetted and well manicured and curated. So I don't know how to speak to that, except, it's culturally relevant for his career and the content that it did break through to a larger audience and became received well. So yeah, it's a significant record for a singer-songwriter 1970s artist. And I would love to encourage younger people to find that there's a whole world of music that is more of an active participation. It's not just about it's not that horrid around the world song that I keep hearing at lunch places, where that you could just experience this album as a hang with this guy, and it was recorded one day in a studio in Los Angeles, and you can listen to him tell you stories or sing songs to you. And there isn't that much of that anymore, but it's all there to listen to on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. So and it's a part, he's tapping into an earlier part of American history that I think is interesting, and they're swinging tunes. They're fun.
Swinging tunes, 100%. I can't agree with you more. And also, Tim, this was so much fun. So,
it was great.
Thank you for coming on. Promote away. Anything you want to promote? Go ahead.
I have a very fun podcast I've been doing now for years, but since quarantine, we've really taken it seriously as we can. Office Hours Live, which is on all the platforms. We do it as a live YouTube call-in show. And we do my other show On Cinema is available. I've basically gone fully independent. All the stuff that I'm not cast in or whatever, I'm just making on my own, and it's all sort of behind different paywalls and stuff. But you can find that show at HeiNetwork.tv, HEI network.tv.
Dude, everybody check it out. Tim, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, take care, guys. All the best.